Welcome, Battle Brothers. I am the Epic Narrator, and today we have a reading from the Tyranid Codex from 1995. Before we start the reading, why not join the chapter by hitting subscribe? We have plenty more audio dramas and 40k content waiting for you there. Now, on with the story. The first thing that alerted the lookouts to the Tyranid attack was the sound of the jungle being torn apart by the ravening swarm as the alien beasts moved rapidly towards the jungle fighter's base. From the moment Sergeant Malian had arrived at the base with his terrible warning, the company had started to prepare for the inevitable. Thanks to the Imperium's earlier encounters with the alien menace that was the Tyranids, it was common knowledge that the Lictor Malian's patrol had encountered was an advanced scout, roving ahead of the main horde. Maybe Malian was only left alive because the Lictor had wanted to follow him back to base. The area of cleared jungle surrounding the company's base had been posted with missile launchers, heavy bolters and the occasional las cannon. The soldiers manning these death-dealing machines waited now in anxious anticipation as the roars of alien screams of the Tyranids came to them from somewhere beyond the dense green wall of the jungle boundary. Commissar Grissom stood amidst his guardsmen on the battlements at the top of the ceramite and plasteel fortification. He prayed for a miracle. He knew these men were among the hardiest soldiers in the whole of the galaxy-spanning Imperial Guard, but he also knew that they were afraid, and rightly so. Being raised on the death-dealing world of Catachan had honed their fighting abilities and prepared them for the toughest of conflicts, but nothing could prepare them totally for a foe as demonic and horrific as the Tyranids. The Tyranid hive fleets came from the frozen vastness of intergalactic space beyond the edge of the known galaxy. Their whole nature was totally alien to the human mind. Even the Eldar and the Orcs had similarities in the outlook and overall purpose for their races, but the Tyranids operated in a totally different and frightening way. Their sole purpose was to absorb the flesh and genetic information of other life forms to continue their own existence. Tightening his grip on the bolt gun in his hand, Commissar Grissom turned to Commander Randall with a look of steely resolution in his eyes. "Commander," he said, "are your men ready?" About to descend to the front lines of engagement with his unit, Randall halted and looked back at the black-clad officer. He resented the commissar's posting on Viridian Prime, and it made Randall feel that his own authority was being undermined. "As ready as they'll ever be," he replied sourly. "They had better be, Commander. They had better be," replied the commissar grimly. The first creatures to break through the line of the trees made the jungle fighters behind the defensive take a step back in horror. Just the sight of the Tyranid warriors caused the guardsmen to recoil back. Striding across the scorched clear zone on crushing hooves, the elite fighters of the hive mind stood over twice as tall as a man and carried into battle the various deadly bioweapons created within the spawning vats of the hive fleet. Randall had heard descriptions of these monsters before, but it was only now when he actually saw them that he understood the dreadful might of the Tyranid warriors. Armed with psychically charged bone swords and projectile-firing organisms such as death spitters and horrific devourers, the warriors advanced on the valiant defenders almost eagerly. Between the larger Tyranids ran the termagants, about the size of a man running on 4 legs. The red-skinned creatures were fast and agile in their movements. They scuttled towards the guardsmen's front ranks, ready to dispatch agonizing death to their enemies with vile, living flesh borers they gripped in their talons. Stronger men than Randall had been driven mad when faced with such beasts. leaving them mere gibbering wrecks to be slaughtered and absorbed by the unstoppable swarm. Randall forced such thoughts from his mind. He was a man, yes, and suffered fear and anguish like any other, but first and foremost he was a soldier, and not just any soldier. He was a Catachan Jungle fighter. Screaming, a soldier within a few meters of Randall fell to the ground with a borer beetle gnashing their way through his stomach. Snarling, the termagant responsible leapt at Randall. With his lightning-fast reactions, he swung the bolt gun up into the termagant's jaw and fired. The creature's head exploded into a mass of torn flesh and splintered bone, and the commander felt the exhilaration of the kill. In the heat of battle, that is where Randall longed to be. Suddenly, a great shadow, like a cloud passing in front of the sun, swept over the battlefield. An ear-piercing screech ran out across the skies. Looking up, Sergeant Mallion saw the distinctive silhouette of a harridan soar past on great leathery wings. Dropping from the harridan like scales, darkening the sky, a gargoyle brood flapped earthwards. In their talons, the vicious-winged monsters clutched the bile-spitting flame spurt. A sheet of flame swept down out of the sky, engulfing the missile launcher team close by in a ball of fire. Mallion reacted instantly. Bathed in the crimson glow of the burning bodies, the sergeant aimed skywards and let rip with his bolt pistol. Screaming, the gargoyle came crashing to the ground, but it was only one out of dozens. Mallion strode resolutely forward to meet his next opponent. The jungle fighters let fly with their artillery directly into the charging Tyranid warriors, but even where the gaps were blasted in their lines, the creatures kept coming. Others filling their spaces until the alien horde were soon on the guardsmen. Commissar Grissom gave the signal, and the heavy weapons teams on the battlements let fire. A great hissing scream assailed the soldiers' ears as a pod-like creature hurtled through the sky towards the base. The pod made contact with the battlements and exploded. Jagged, flesh-rending pieces of chitin were blasted over a wide area, while great gobbets of corrosive mucus splattered against the battlements and showered guardsmen with acidic, poisonous slime. Trying to discover the source of the barrage, the commissar gazed out across the scene of carnage. In the distance, through the steamy haze hanging over the forest, Grissom could make out the faint shape of a creature. The beast raised its head on its snaking neck and bellowed to her swarm, the brood mother calling out to her children. Thank you for listening, Battle Brothers. Subscribe to the chapter for part 2.